Hey everyone, this is Arsenal Fan Circle. Um, Coming to you on a Thursday night, and you see the four of us are regulars here: myself, Ray, Alonso, Spencer, Sam, and Gary. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
I've got a
Hello.
newbie here. I want to introduce a special announcement for John from Miami podcast. So check him out if you haven't already. Welcome to the Arsenal Fan Circle, John, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about you. You have a little a podcast too, right?
Yeah. So I do the Arsenal Miami podcast. We started in about 2015 and took a little hiatus, but we got back and we just started doing it actually a little bit before the season. And until then, I was on Tom Canton's podcast over at the Gooner Talk, and I do a little bit of writing for them as well.
Yep. Yeah, good stuff. I like Tom's content as well, and sort of got introduced to you by watching them. So
Great.
obviously extended the invitation to you as you do. All Arsenal podcasters have to, collaborating. It's an evil world out there, and we have to kind of get through it. But
For sure.
thanks, John. One thing for new people coming on, I kind of asked your Arsenal story. How did you get into Arsenal?
So I was talking to Alonso about this a little bit earlier before we went live. I actually was following them. Most Americans, the way they get into football, soccer is the World Cup. So that's what happened to me in the early 2000s, and I saw that French team with like Pires and Bergkamp, Vieira, rather Petit, those guys. And I was like, all right, well, I want to keep watching them. So I said, well, where do these guys play? I have an affinity for Germany, but I like that French team. They were really, dynamic, and they played for Arsenal. So I started watching Arsenal. It was one of the teams that they actually luckily showed Premier League games for here in America. And then shortly after, we went invincible, and it's kind of been downhill from there. But that was it. So I was an Arsenal fan ever since. So there's been a lot of nothing in between that. And then luckily, we won the FA Cup and broke that trophy drought, and now went down a little bit more, but it's been really, really promising recently, especially with Arteta's appointment and kind of the football that we're playing now, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Count yourself lucky, John, that you did get to see the Invincibles. We have a lot of Gooners out there that have supported Arsenal since 2004, 2005, have not seen us win a league title yet, and let's hope we can get there. We get back to the promised land. We've gotten back there in a sense in terms of Arteta bringing us back to getting the FA Cups again, but this is the point where Arsene Wenger's teams kind of stopped in 2017, 2015, 2014, and we need to kick on now, right? So we're gonna talk a little bit about that loosely, but I wanted to say thank you to John, thank you to Sam, Gary, and Alonso for joining me tonight, and thank you to everybody watching. Recent viewers and regular viewers at season 3. We're going to be, this is going to be our best season yet. And I want to take a moment now for everyone just to pause for a second and hit that like button. We're going to try to get to about 30 likes. We are obviously going to get into the good time, the good feeling here. And I've charged everyone with a quick task here. This is kind of my idea. Give me a song that is kind of describing how you're feeling about Arsenal right now. And I'll start. So the song I picked is "Let the Good Times Roll." So I think the good times are rolling right now. We're going to win more games than we lose. We're probably going to win more games this season than we drew last season as well.
Yeah.
We drew 14. We won 14. So Alonso, have you got a song for me?
I do. It's called "The Comeback Kids" by Sibbles.
There you go.
Very good song, man. I like it a lot.
And
so
we are coming back, baby.
right.
I'm looking at Liverpool, and we'll talk about Thiago as well. But they are moving forward this season. Our MO, Sam, our MO is going to be top 4, break into that top 4. So, what's your song title, Sam?
The first song that came into my head when you sent me that message was it's a song I've liked. It's a classic, and it just popped back into my head when you when he sent me that message, and that's an old Jackie Wilson song. That Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher. But it's that if you hear the song, it just feels like we're going the right way. We're going higher and higher.
And there's a lot of harmony in the squad, Gary.
Yes. Yeah. So my first thought was initially, I have a feeling, but then I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, I always have a feeling, and then it doesn't really come true. So I want to hold on to that one for a little bit later in the season, and then maybe I'll be able to say that. So my song is "One More Time" by Daft Punk. Basically,
cool,
so I've got 38 Premier League games, and one more time I want to do it again. So each game I want it to be one more time, so one more win. So we'll take this game at a time for me.
Hopefully you're singing it every weekend, Gary, as we pile up these wins, right? Now, a little bit unfair to John, perhaps unfair. I didn't get a chance to hit him up until we were in the green room here. So this is John's song title with about 3 minutes of preparation.
It popped right in. I didn't even need to think about it, and it's a Frank Sinatra song. The best is yet to come. So that's kind of where that's like me putting it out in the universe there. But let's do it, and hopefully Frankie can get us there.
And we really believe it, right? I'm buying in, and I'm a little bit more optimistic probably than most Gooners, but I'm buying into this Arteta thing. Didn't take me too long to buy in. We had a rough spring, lots of draws in there, but since we came back from lockdown, I think the team has gone up levels. Anyone want to add to that? Since we came back, we had, and I'm gonna say a watershed moment for me was at Brighton. It was some hurt that we had to go through that Brighton game. So I'll let anyone jump in if they want and add to that. Or nothing at all, and we can just get on to the Aubameyang. So I've said enough for everyone. Aubameyang signing, John. I'll go to you first. Aubameyang signing. The good feelings keeps on going.
Yeah, and it's. I don't think right now. I mean, we're all happy about it, but I really don't know if we can really appreciate the impact that signing is, that re-signing is going to have. We think we do, but when you look at our history and kind of the bad history that we've had especially with our kind of talismanic captain players, you look at Van Persie, you look at like you're kind of like Cesc Fabregas's, maybe you wouldn't necessarily consider him captain material, certainly a talismanic player for Arsenal. You even and you even look at players like Nasri, who are these great talents at Arsenal and then leave us. And we all know who they are. So without getting into that too much, thinking about what this means that he signed for us again and the kind of player that he is for us, forgetting about what I just said for a second and how, losing from an optics perspective, one of our probably best players that we've had at in the Emirates era, just how key and pivotal he is for the way that we function from a footballing perspective. The fact that most of our goals came from him, and it wasn't even close. It was him basically, and a lot of times games on his shoulders. So it's extremely important for us that we re-signed him. And I think that when you're looking at it from back, when we're looking at it in retrospect, I think that it's going to be potentially a turning point for the club. And I know that a lot of people are like, well, I'm kind of hesitant to say that, but I really think that had he not signed for us, we'd be feeling very different right now, and we'd be really, really far behind in terms of what we need to replace in the squad. And it's going to be extremely difficult to replace a player like that.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that up by going to Gary, because I know he's still a little bit nervous in this transfer window. Gary's anxious to get those extra 2 signings in the door. So cast your mind back and just think of what John has said, that scenario. Aubameyang has not signed, and he's possibly wants to leave to, the clubs who have come in for him, Barca, Real Madrid had a look, and Inter Milan as well. Real possibilities he could have left, but legendary status, is there for him. Some will say right now he's a legend right now for staying with us, Gary, but he can definitely cement that in the next few years.
Most definitely. Yeah. So looking forward to do that. Looking forward to him doing that.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like, that signing was, I would have liked that signing to be one of the first one we had, just so we could start the ball rolling. I know that's probably the that's the big, finale there by having him signed. But I would have liked to have seen that first, just because then we know that other players that are coming in would also know who's going to be there. Because if he's not going to be there, why would somebody else want to come if you're going to lose your best scorer, one of the best scorers in the league? So, I mean, I like that it's happened. I would like to see what happens next. And, if he's staying and because he got the right information from the team, I'm all for that and looking forward to seeing who does join us. And hopefully it happens, the sooner the better for me. Just so just one, so we know, and two, so that we can start moving forward.
Yeah.
As opposed to waiting for the next thing to happen.
Just waiting. I think there's like a matter of days now. It's like 18 or 19 days. So, to tack on to what John said, the good feeling continues. Sam, let's talk about the whole unveiling. What did you think of the whole, what Arsenal did? It's a little bit.
Yeah, it was. First, they teased us for weeks, didn't they? I mean, they really did drag that out, didn't they? I mean, I think we knew it was happening for a while, but it just took that time for him to actually get it done. And but the way they did it, I thought was very well done. The way it was all presented through him on Instagram, and then the Arsenal TV team there as well, filming it. And it was a very good announcement, a little bit different. So I liked it because it was different, not just the standard pictures of the guy signing it, and just release the pictures on the website and the social media channels, and that's that. And I thought it was very good. And the whole interaction, of course, with Ian Wright and Lacazette. And I really loved that interaction with Ian Wright, because for me that was really such an amazing symbol of what Arsenal is, right? It's that legend. It's that red line that goes through the history of Arsenal, the legends.
Yeah. And
you've got one of our previous great legends, Ian Wright, basically talking to Aubameyang and welcoming him potentially into what we hope is going to be our next legend, or Aubameyang, and saying, basically, welcome to the Legends Club. Ian Wright's already calling him a legend for signing and staying with us, and of course you can argue that, but it's just a great feeling. I just love that whole Ian Wright being involved as well. Him calling Ian Wright, and that was great. That was just such a nice touch.
Yeah.
And but everything, it was unique, wasn't it, and different, and I really liked it. And it was just great to finally get that release of, okay, now it's actually done. Okay, now we can sort of just, we can breathe out, relax. Now we can sort of focus on what's coming next, because they had us on our toes, for weeks, didn't they? They really did.
Yeah, but we knew it was always going to happen. I had no inkling that it wasn't going to happen at any point in time. I was quite confident. John's like, maybe not.
But it's just it took them so long, though, wasn't it? That was the thing. It took them. It was questioning, why is it taking so long?
Yeah.
We all sort of knew where his heart was, and I think we all knew he was on board with Arteta and everything. But it was that, why are we waiting this long for it to happen? That's what it was.
I think personally he wanted to see how other transfer developments were coming.
Possibly.
Atletico Madrid, Lyon. The players there we have targeted, and it must be a very, very positive sign that those two things are going to happen. We want to get to Alonso in a second. Darren said, my ex-social work got me into Arsenal, which Ray knows about. Whole story. Great story. And how we find our paths into Arsenal does not matter. We're all brothers. We're all brotherhood here. We all love the same thing, right, Alonso?
Yeah.
And one other thing, Tony, if we do hit 30 likes, I will sing. But like I said to you, Tony, the world does not need another natural disaster that I would be singing, And Tony draws are your topic, your specialist topic. But Alonso, the whole Aubameyang thing.
Yeah, I thought that it was pretty special because whenever he was in the locker room, he faced Henry's jersey, and it seemed like he wants to be better than Henry and break his records at the club, or at least try his best to break his records. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned the leadership.
We're going to get into that. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Go ahead.
Well, I thought it was key for him to resign because everything about the club, and look at his friendship with Lacazette, they're very close, and he's very close with other players on the team as well. So losing him, I think, would be catastrophic because who knows what would happen. But I think it's very important that he resigns, and his status is just amazing. You know, he's a happy guy. He's very positive, very happy, and he loves Arsenal, and he loves London as well. So, I mean, yeah. So I think the FA Cup really sold it for me as far as him resigning, and as far as the future goes for Arsenal.
Yeah, John, and I want all of you to think about how many goals he could score in the next 2.5 years. I mean, injury is always going to be the thing that hangs over every player's head, but you know, it'd be a shame if he didn't break the 100. Probably could do it this season as well. But let's see how he can go in the next 2.5 years, or whatever his career is going to be. Right, he wants him to spend the rest of his career at Arsenal, and it may be difficult for him to move now. The amount of money he's going to be paid. So, but that's another topic for later. We don't want to get into money, 350s plus, and all that stuff, right, John? Let's touch on what Alonso talked about, the fun that Aubameyang has on the field, the fun that he has in the dressing room. He seems like he's playing at the top of his game because he's happy, and we all know if we're happy, we can do our best in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And he even kind of mentions that it's that he knows that he can play better when he's happy. And it was interesting that he mentioned his father, because we all know that his father is so influential on his life and his decisions making. And we were briefly discussing kind of like the hesitance that he had maybe to sign, and I don't really want to call it a hesitance because that seems like he might have not thought it was a great idea, but you look at his age profile, and this is a 3-year deal that he's looking for. That's probably going to put him into, this is probably the last big move that he can make in his career, unless, you know, he pulls like a Ronaldo or something, but and no one's saying that he can. I mean, he's an absolute athlete. So but taking the statistics of a player at that point, it's going to be around 34, almost 35. He really needed to make sure that this was the right move for him, because it's probably the last big one he has. And for me, that was the kind of the little hesitance I had, the concern I had was that, you know, maybe he wanted to go somewhere else where there was they had Champions League football and everything like that. But signing for us, you know, meant that he really believes in this process, and that the money was right, first of all, because you know, as legend and all this great PR and everything, money also is a factor, and he is getting paid a lot to be here, but not that he hasn't deserved it. So when I'm looking at him from a perspective of you know, feeling good and playing good, you have to be comfortable. And he says he's happy. Everyone feels like a family here. And then his dad told him, going back to my original point, you play better when you're happy. And that's the key here. Yes, he can maybe go to Champions League football. Yes, he might be going to another club, but it's not that guarantee of happiness. Let me put it this way. He knows right now that Arsenal is a club that makes him happy. He knows that he vibes with the people. He knows the fans absolutely adore him. Anything on the other side of the fence is a question mark. So so that is something that he needed to take into consideration when he went. So, you know, I completely agree with you.
Exactly, John. The grass is not always greener. And one other thing is, he knows that the team is pretty much set up for him at this point in time. We've all seen the line drawings of how we play out from the back, and it all ends with Aubameyang on the left side, especially those 2 goals, Sam, in recent games against Liverpool and Fulham. Almost carbon copies of each other.
Yeah, he's worked out. Obviously it's become something for him that he manages to do. He's got that ability, and he's you know, like Henry. He always used to shoot down the left, cut into the right, and he'd curl it in the far corner. He used to curl it into the bottom right corner. Now we've got Aubameyang, but virtually doing the same thing, but he curls it into the top right corner. And it's become like his trademark now, and he's so good at doing it. He can do it. You know, it's just like Henry just had that ability. Like I remember so many defenders who played against him saying, you know, he's just that good. He could just do it. You couldn't stop him. And it looks like Aubameyang's getting into that same type of mold, you know. And of course, for us, that's a great thing.
I really, really loved the comment as well when Righty said, what were you going to do? What were your thoughts when you came up against the fullback? You know, he's like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Magic. But Gary, a great way to do the unveiling, the extension, and Ian Wright being involved in interviewing him, and everything just seemed right about it for Aubameyang as well. As John touched on, he's happy, but also you had that conversation with Mikel Arteta, which players say they know about coaches pretty quickly if they're the right ones or not. I think you're on mute there.
Oh my gosh. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Rookie mistake here.
Podcast then.
No, that's the follow on from what John mentioned as far as him being happy. And I feel like, when he was coming over, there was the whole story about, is he going to be able to mesh with the team? He seemed like a bad boy coming over. Was it going to be a problem child for us? And, since he's been here, he's just been smiling the whole time. And like you said, he's been happy. And I think, I kind of feel like he may have matured through that experience. And when he got here, he realized it's all about what's on the field and enjoying yourself. And you see it every day. He's smiling, he's happy. And when he's happy, more goals go in, more flips happen, maybe some more masks will come out. He's definitely enjoying himself, and having fun with it, which is what this is all about. It makes us want to see him do well because, he's enjoying himself. He'll put in the work, and he finishes
as well.
So we like that.
Alonso, let's get into. I'm going to ask you for predictions for the rest of his career, and it's a little bit difficult. I get it. It's a little bit difficult. He scored 72 goals in 111 games, I believe, so far. I'm going to ask you for brackets within 10. So I want him to score more than Robin van Persie just to kick him down a little bit in the scoring charts. If he does that, he'll be 7th in the all-time, I believe, which Van Persie is. So I'm going to put Aubameyang in the 140 to 150 range in terms of goals he's going to score for Arsenal. I'm going to go to John because Alonso looks like he's thinking very, very intently there. So, John, what do you think? I think between 140 and 150. I know it's difficult.
At the end of his career at Arsenal, you know what? Let's go with the 140, 150. I'm gonna agree with you there. I like that. And it's definitely it's definitely a big number there, but I think it'll be fun. Realistically, you can expect him to score probably around
close to 30.
Yeah, probably close to 30 a season. So it's not unrealistic. And, if the system works out well, like if we've actually make the correct, I feel like if we get more creativity in the midfield, we're going to get a lot more chances created. And I think players like Willian are really going to help with that. And I know Ceballos towards after the restart was absolutely excellent in terms of his progression and chances created. He led the team. So if we can get that kind of dynamic in place, I feel like those kind of numbers, those 30 goal numbers, which is like that key for like a top striker in the Premier League, are reasonable, and therefore I think that prediction is not unreasonable.
Yeah, and also I think we can debate a little bit, John. I'll come to you, Alonso, in a second. Now you got your number right, Alonso.
Yeah.
But John, I'll stay with you a second. The team getting better may mean that his goals go down a little bit purely because the team is more cohesive and the ball is not always ending up at Aubameyang. So, that's maybe something we want to see as well.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I think the counter argument to that is not only will Aubameyang score as much or perhaps more, but other people will score as well. So instead of a 1-0 victory, we'll get 2-3. That's my hope, at least.
All right, Alonso, we're both in the 140 to 150 category. Where are you going with this?
So I think that he get somewhere between 136, and like John said, I think we need a proper number 10, or at least someone that could give him the ball when give him a better assist rate. And I have a suggestion. I think that we should bring back Mesut Ozil from the 15-16 season, and then have him come back when like Back to the Future and have him play this season and the upcoming seasons so he can have more assists to give Aubameyang, not Giroud or Alexis Sanchez. But yeah, I think he'd be around 136 range with the proper midfielders. And I think Williams going to help out with that, and so is whomever else is going to come in. We'll help him a lot.
Well, I'm going to go to Gary then. On talking about better midfielders, we're going to get Houssam Aouar as well in Partey, and that's going to give Aubameyang a lot more chances, right, Gary?
Definitely. I mean, I think with this year, he only got, as if I recall, I think 29 goals. So expecting, with more opportunities. I mean, I feel like the past season there were a couple of games where it didn't seem like the ball made it up to the front third at all. And now I will, with what we have in terms of William showing us how to do it, and a lot of the other players maybe increasing their performance from last year. They have a lot more opportunities, and like I said, one of those those close games will now hopefully be blowouts for us, meaning more opportunities, more chances for him. We go deeper into the Europa League and some of the other tournaments. Those are additional goals that he may get as far as when we get to the end of those tournaments, if we're still in it. So I'm looking at. Actually, I guess when I have my count here, I'm looking at like 152. So, I'm expecting most of those to come in the next, this season and next. And then there may be some drop off, in that third year. But by then,
bound to be a drop off where he becomes a substitute, an impact player, hopefully. Great comment here from Norma. Oba is the last present Arsene Wenger gave to us. And, there was a lot of controversy. We already had Lacazette in the house. And we probably profited, Sam, because of the club being in such disarray and poorly run. We had Lacazette, and Gazidis goes and gets Aubameyang on that fateful day.
Yeah, well, Sven had a lot to do with it as well, didn't he? Mislintat, and he also became a controversial figure. But yeah, he did a few good signings as well through Sven. Aubameyang came in with a bit of a mixed reputation. His ability, I don't think, was under any doubt, because we've seen you saw in the Bundesliga, the guy was scoring goals for fun, and he was a very highly rated striker, wasn't he, throughout Europe? So I don't think we really sort of ever doubted his ability. But I think it's more like we was talking about his attitude, and maybe off the field we were a bit worried about that because of the reputation he had previously had. But I think he's matured. I think he's matured with age, and he's become a more level-headed, down-to-earth guy. And, of course, he's crazy. I'm talking about when it comes to family life, and it seems like he's happy at home with his family and everything we see that's sort of behind the scenes documentary stuff with him and stuff. I'm not talking about his crazy coloured Lamborghinis and all that flamboyance, that kind of stuff, which is a different thing. But that's just style, right, and his taste. But when it comes to his attitude, I think his attitude seems to have improved a lot. Like I said, he's a lot more mature, and I think he's turned into a really good role model as well. I think is one of the reasons why he's captain as well. He shows the other people how to do things, and that's one of the reasons why he's captain. And of course, in terms of me, I think you're right. Somewhere between the 140, 150 goals mark, if he does well the last 3 years now of his contract, maybe he might get maybe an extra year if he's doing well. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe depends. It depends how fit and how well he's doing at that time, at the end of that towards the end of that contract. But he might stay on and bag a few more goals. But if he's just here for the 3 years, then about maybe the 140 mark is about around that mark, I think. Like you say, if he gets ahead of Van Persie, it'll be nice. Van Persie's
my motivation.
He's on the one. He's on the 132, isn't he? 132. So if he gets ahead of him, I think we'll be happy.
Yeah, that's my target, Van Persie, to drop him back. Now, we've got other things to get through, but I do want to linger on Aubameyang, keep the good feeling going. And I want to linger, John, on a couple of quotes that he had said in that interview as well. There's lots of things we can talk about in the interview, but the first quote I want to talk about is he was looking at the young players. They're coming like fire. And that's a real big motivating factor for any player as well to stay at Arsenal. We've got a coach. We're hopefully getting the back room sorted with Edu. but the young players are getting better.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think you can make an argument that he's not just referring to the likes of Martinelli and Saka. You look at players like Pepe
Willock.
you look at players like Tierney. They're also young too. There's actually a very young, like the age profile of the squad's really young. So I don't know. I'm going to assume he's talking about Saka and Martinelli and Willock and those guys.
Yeah.
But but when you look at players like Tierney, who's a young player, you look at players like Pepe, who's also relatively young. Those are also very exciting kind of young talents. But I about like Pepe and Martinelli and we haven't had Martinelli for a good amount of the season, and we remember how great he was. So there's definitely a fire in the belly of these young players, and I think Emery gets a lot of stick, but one of the things that he kind of gave us were these young crop of players. And when you look at the chances he gave them in the Europa League, which was basically his goal in the season, so he knew that he needed to get the best out of these players in those tournaments, and he gave them the opportunity. Saka, Martinelli are prime examples of that. And you see what they did and how they shone there, and now it's carried over to this season with the new manager and all of that. I think Saka maybe didn't get as much opportunity, which is good because I think he's a young player. If you rely on him as much as we did, like for example we did with Iwobi, I feel like a lot of his growth was stunted because we relied on him at a young age for far too long. You can make the same kind of arguments for Walcott, possibly even Jack Wilshere. I think Cesc Fabregas is the counter example to that. But there's a lot of pressure on these young players right now, and I think that you need to ease them in properly. And there isn't a better man manager, I would argue, in the Premier League right now, maybe Pep, than Arteta, and that extends to young players as well. So when Aubameyang's saying there's a fire in these kids' bellies, a lot of that's in Arteta's hands, and I can't think of a better person to be in control than him right now.
And that topic as well, John, will sort of verge into. We're going to talk about Lampard, Ole, Chelsea United, and Brendan Rodgers as well. But I wanted to go to Gary because we did touch on Pepe, and Gary and I are big fans of Pepe. But as John said, I don't know if you're frozen there, John. We'll get you back. As John said, sometimes last season, Gary, our supposed second team was better than our first team. The young players playing in the Europa League were doing much better than the seasoned professionals under Emery in the league.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of those games were really exciting to see. With Saka going, playing some tremendous defense and pretty much wearing himself out. 70 minutes to go. After 70 minutes, and you knew he was spent, and he had given everything he could. It was good to see them do that. And like you said, for the last year and a half before Arteta got here, the youngsters got a lot of time on the ball, a lot of time on the field, a lot of experience in big games. They were crucial to us. So it was nice to see. And I think now with William there, a lot of those players, the Sakas and Pepe, will gain some experience on how is it done and where to be on the field. So I'm looking forward to that. So I think we've got some more experience on the field that's going to help them, and they have experience on the field already. So now it's just a matter of fine tuning it to get that more consistency that we're looking for from game in and game out. Because that's they show potential, but we want to see a lot more of that and on a regular basis. So looking forward to that. And I think as we grow our depth and the quality of our depth grows, when they get on the field, I think they'll be better, all the better for it, because they would have seen it on the field in a red jersey, and now they can actually go and perform it and replicate the same thing. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Up to 11 likes here. If you want to hear me sing, maybe you don't. We need 19 more. We'll see. Tony, it might not happen today. I want to thank Limburg Camp, Norma, and everyone in the chats. Sam, we must recognize while the young kids are coming like fire, very often the profile of the young kids, they will have a backward step. One or two of them will have a backward step in their genesis.
Yeah, of course, and I think that's the we've got to, as fans, as Arsenal fans, we have to set that level of expectation where we can't expect too much too quickly from these kids. We have to realise that they are going to make mistakes. The likes of Gabriel now, who had a fantastic. He's only 22. He had a fantastic debut.
I don't consider him as a young player, but you just
No,
told
but
me
I'm
he
just
is.
giving an example that we have
No, but
to
you're right.
set expectations that he's going to make a mistake, and like with the young players when they get a chance, like the Martinellis, he's still going to make a mistake or two, maybe have a game where he's not brilliant. We have to expect that, because nowadays I feel, and I think it's something that's become a lot more prevalent with the age of social media, where everything is just now we want everything now, information now, a reaction now. It's sort of, we expect everything, everyone to be brilliant straight from the first hour, the first minute, first kick or whatever, and it's just completely unrealistic, right? I mean, you look at every single player development from their youth level through to senior level. There's games where they're not performing, or periods where they're not performing, and that's just part of it. You learn from that. So yeah, for me, I think that we've got some really exciting players coming through. There's younger players who aren't active in the first team at the moment, who are in the under-23s that look really, really good. A lot of promise there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them in the League Cup and maybe in some of the early rounds, the early games, depending on who we're playing in the Europa League. I'm excited. I'm really excited about what we're seeing.
Oh, and by the way, not just because it's an Arsenal fan channel, we have to mention that team that just scraped through in the Europa League, and have a little chuckle about that, right?
Yeah, they needed two red cards the other team got, they needed, and then they sort of woke up a bit at the end.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. That team, which are kind of insignificant to us because we win things and they simply don't. We're worried about the teams that do win things, and they're not one of them in the conversation a little bit later. Gary, let's take the question from Norma here, and we'll go around the table on this. Would you rather win the league but Europa League but finish sixth, or reach top four with no trophy at all? I'm all about trophies, so I would take that Europa League.
Yeah, I think I'm also on that same thought. I rather, because I want to see progression, and I don't. If we jump to top four, I think, and don't win anything, I think that experience of being able to win a trophy and lift one up every year, I think is will put a lot of fire into those players. And so I kind of feel like I want to see us lift another trophy, a bigger one this time with the Champions Leagues on the line. And I mean, if we're in the final for the Europa, then I think as far as our placing, will still be pretty good in our spacing if we were able to make it all the way up to the finals in the Europa. So I think they kind of go hand in hand. So we're going to have one or the other. Either we're going to finish fourth, or maybe not make it all the way to the final, or we're going to win the final and finish in the top six. So I think they're definitely correlated.
It's not going to do my old ticker so good if we get to a Europa League final again with all the chips on that game. Given what happened to us, we just about banished that memory with Chelsea. But Alonso, what would you rather, to get the trophy or finish in the top four, which Arsene Wenger used to say was a trophy back in the day?
So it'd be like Gary said, it'd be nice to win another trophy, because I think what we've been through, I think that we haven't won. It was such an embarrassment to play Chelsea in the final in Baku, right? And it was a disaster from the start. And I think right now, we have a team that is hungry. If it gets to that point in the Europa League final, we should just win it. And they had the squad to do it. Even the reserves are up to it. So I think that we use our past experiences and move forward with that. And I think that with the squad, we're more talented in the top six now than we were last year at this point.
So I think we're all for trophies at this time. I'm going to come to John then and Sam. But Rule said trophies encourage and act as incentives. And, we've just seen Aubameyang sign the extension. We want to reward him. The whole thing about the team is, and the coach and the manager that he is now, that they all have to grow together. It's organic. If one thing is not working, then the manager may be tempted to look at other projects. I do believe he's going to dedicate 3 years to us, though. That's my belief. He's not even going to entertain moves anywhere. I think we have Arteta, unless it really, really gets bad, and I can't see it getting really, really bad. as last season. And what I'm saying is, Aubameyang needs to be encouraged by winning trophies, and Arteta needs to be encouraged, and they're going to vibe off of each other. But John, your take on that question?
I think that it's pretty straightforward in my mind that it's about winning a trophy. So if you think about it, it's almost in that question, it's almost assuming that the result is the same, right? That you end up in the Champions League.
Yes.
But it's kind of not, because if you win Europa League, it opens up not one but two trophies for you, because then you get to play in the UEFA Super Cup against the winners of the Champions League the previous season. So not only that, you get another opportunity at silverware, like two for the price of one. Same thing happens with the winner of the league cup, or the league and the FA Cup, right? So it's not just, and people like to say, okay, well, which one would be better? If the end result is the same and you get a shot at another trophy and get to beat the champions of Europe, that I got to go with that, right? I mean, sure, top four is great, and there's the bragging rights over everyone in the league and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it's about legacy, as everyone's been talking now. But it's about trophies, and the easiest way to build a legacy is to win trophies, and that's two possibly.
Yeah. And the thing about top four, if you get it, Sam, it will likely go to the last day of the season as well. So I'm going to have those nerves.
How about we finish top four and we win Europa League?
Well, that's the ultimate, right?
Yeah,
that'd be great. That would be great.
And defend our FA Cup too.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, now we're talking.
All right, Sam. What's your route? You want to go for the trophy or the placing? If you have,
I agree with John completely. I mean, because he made a very good point, because it actually opens up for that extra, little incentive that Super Cup, right? I mean, that's a nice little cup to have as well, to have beaten the champions of Europe. So, to have a chance to have that game as well would be great. And because the end result's still the same. You're still in the Champions League. And like you say, it's about winning trophies. It's nice to have that trophy in the trophy cabinet, and it adds to the confidence and what the guys have achieved. Right, if you win a trophy, you've achieved something. Right, you've won that competition. So it adds so much more than what just coming fourth in the league. Even though coming fourth in the league, of course, listen, that's a great achievement. But you still haven't won anything, right? You haven't actually won a trophy, even though Wenger kept telling us it is a trophy. It's sort of a trophy you don't put in the trophy cabinet, right? So it's about putting trophies in the trophy cabinet, and at least the Europa League trophy you can put in the cabinet.
That's the reason why you build cabinets, to put things in them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Remember, Cam said trophies are everything. If you're going to get into top four, maybe you have an all-round better team. Arguably, than winning the Europa League, which is basically a cup competition. But listen, it would be great to have a choice of either one of them. We're going for top four, and we're going to a final. I'm hella happy next May or March, April, whatever that's going to be. Going 42 minutes, but I believe Aubameyang is worth it. He's worth our time, so we'll go a little bit longer. One more quote I got to talk about. Gary, I'll go with you first. The quote is, "It's time for everyone to start respecting our club." That's what Aubameyang said. Very true.
Yeah, definitely. I think people have been laughing at us for a little while, and we need to shut them up. And I think we have a lot of players that want to do that. I think. We do have a lot of players that are looking forward to being able to shut up, the naysayers, the ones that are laughing at us, or and we're doing good with it, and we're moving along. And the natural progression for us is to be able to, answer all those questions that are being asked of us. So I'm looking forward to that. We've done. We kind of ended the season answering a lot of questions, and it's good to see us go forward and answer even some more questions as we move through this season. And hopefully in October we'll have some more tools to use in answering those questions that come at us as the season progresses. And then once again, when a lot of our players get healthy, we'll have some additional tools to use to answer those questions that come towards the end of the season. So I'm looking forward to that. More tests. We got 38 tests right now that we know of, and then going forward, we're gonna have 3 more big tests coming up. Where we can show that we are better than we were last season. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, Sam, I'm going to go Game of Thrones here, and like winter is coming, bigger tests are coming. We're not really going to talk about West Ham because we will have an opportunity on Saturday to dip into West Ham at the end of the day. But we might talk a little bit about West Ham. But Sam, bigger tests are coming, and it's time for everyone to start respecting our club. We need to do what we need to do against West Ham.
Yeah, I think West Ham is going to be a game we win. I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think because they're going to sit low, and this is what we're talking about. Teams that sort of just sit low, park the bus, frustrate us. It's not going to be easy to break them down and score many goals. But I think we'll win. But yeah, the bigger test is the game after when we go to Anfield, right? I mean, that's the bigger test. Yeah.
We can get into that a little bit later because we're going to talk about the clubs around us, and we have to talk about Thiago as well a little bit later. A Lombard Camp said our attack is stacked, and we finally have good centre backs, and we got a great fullback, but we do need midfielders. So, John, we usually go about it usually another 30, 40 minutes. You good with that? You can duck out anytime you want as well.
Sure.
All right. I'll go to Alonso and then John. To wrap up this section, we need to everyone needs to respect our club, Alonso. We're getting there. Under Arteta, it's starting to happen. He's making really bad players average, and he's making really average players great. Alonso?
Yeah, I think that Arteta, he's brought back an Austin Wayne and other players. I think that whenever you have Arteta and any who aren't the fan favorites.
By the way, I'm liking what Elneny's doing. I'm a fan. I'm an Elneny fan. Got to say that.
Yeah,
got to put that out there.
To see what they're doing is pretty well. I think that their partnership has been successful so far, and I think that Arteta's not the one to break up a good chemistry like that because it's working, and I want to see it successful. And there were once Banger's players as well. He brought them in, so it's kind of cool to see them work well together and give them a chance to succeed. And I think that's important at this stage of his career as well because he has to take risks. And if it works, then why stop?
Hey, John, a good coach when he makes bad players decent players quite good, and quite good players pretty good, and so forth. So it goes on and on. Aubameyang stepping up levels right at the top of the chain. But like I said, Will Nenny, he's a great squad player, and sure he's not going to play every game, but he's quite decent against Fulham's, West Ham's for us.
Yeah, maybe even, I don't want to say maybe even more than that, but it might be because and the reason I say it is this, because you can't count on a season to go without injuries, right? You always need to account for the possibility of an injury. And you look at Elneny's time in this club, and I've always said this to people, and I remember kind of posting this on one of the group chats I'm on with a bunch of the podcasters, and I got absolutely slated for it. It was before the game that he had this season where he kind of bossed everything and then was selected again in the Premier League. He is a solid 6 to 8 out of 10 player every time he plays. I can't even really count on one hand the performances where you're like, man, Elneny really messed this up today, right? He's always very positionally disciplined. I think the biggest thing that people have about Elneny is maybe he's not the most technical player, and a lot of his passes might be sideways and backways, but that's, as another player in the midfield, when you're under pressure, to know that you have a player that can maintain possession regardless if it's lateral passing or passing back to a defender, rather than freak out and lose possession, is extremely comforting for any other player that you're playing with. I would imagine playing with Elneny is extremely comforting. You're not going to worry about some crazy errant pass. You're not going to worry about him going and becoming a Rambo and trying to take the game on himself and losing possession. And for Arteta, a team that wants to keep possession, that is a dream player to have as a squad player. And I've said that he's not a superstar by any means. He's not going to dominate and take Europe by storm. But at the same time, he definitely doesn't get the credit I think that he deserves. And when you look at going back to your original point about Arteta, raising the game of certain players and the profile of certain, I think it's absolutely evident. And it's not a case of this new manager bounce, which I think that a lot of people can see when new managers come in and everyone does it. I think we're past that point, and the kind of changes we're seeing are not flukes. They're statistical and formational changes, and the evidence of a lot of the evidence of that are the two almost identical goals we saw against Liverpool and then the one that we just saw against Fulham, where Aubameyang scored. These are clear where not only is Aubameyang in the same position, but Tierney and Maitland-Niles are in the same place. It's clear they've been working at that. That kind of dedication in the training ground and that structure it shows that it's not just this new manager bounce. It's that ideas are being implemented in practice and they're actually working, which is very, very comforting.
Yeah, and we're hearing time and time again players saying they get themselves in situations that Arteta has told them will happen. He's also given them the keys to the kingdom on the pitch as well, that they'll be able to get out of them. I want to say a big thanks to everyone watching right now. Great to have you all here. So slap a like if you're liking this podcast. I think I'm really enjoying the podcast so far. So we're doing so far so good, right, everybody? But listen, Aubameyang, we've given him the extension. We've given him 50 minutes on the podcast. We've devoted a big section to him. So long may it continue that we keep talking about him, because believe it or not, there are fans from other teams who are not happy that Aubameyang is staying with us, and they're going to start we're looking around the league a little bit later to our rivals that are a little bit above us. We are an 8th place team. It's tough to say that right now, but it doesn't feel it. The feel-good factor is there. But, we got to make strides to get forward here. Next section is just going to touch briefly on the Fulham game. So, Sam, it is noticeable how comfortable the players are on the ball. And, point to El-Neni and the move that he made in that midfield, where Willian then picks up the ball, sprays it out to Aubameyang, and the rest is history, right? But El-Neni was a key part of that move as well.
Yeah, I mean, El-Neni is, like you guys have been saying, he does things right. He makes the right choices. He makes the right decisions. And I also think he's very, very good at positioning himself to be in a position where he can get the ball. He doesn't hide in behind other players. He's got that good movement that you can always find him. And I was looking at that when he was playing against Fulham. He was always in a position where you could give him the ball, and that for me showed something I really liked, and I think, and I'm hoping that's also what Arteta sees in him. I think he helps what we do work better at the moment, because he's someone you give. When you're in a back three, and you want the ball to go quickly. You got to have someone to link up to in midfield, to move the ball forwards. And El-Neni is that player. He can really link up well with the back three, and he did it really well against Fulham. And also his passes, I don't think he hardly had a poor pass. I think he was always passing accurately throughout the whole game. And like you say, it's not always the most spectacular passes, but you don't need the spectacular passes because that's not his role. His role is to find the next person in a better position than himself, and then that person then can do something, right? If it's a more creative player, like a Willian, then it's up to Willian to use his creativity and skill that he has, his skill set, to then create something, right? So you've got to give these players with these skill sets the ball to go and do something, but you need to give them the ball, and that's what El-Neni's job is, and he does that really, really well. And because he's not flamboyant and doesn't have these amazing skills and does little flicks and nice touches in there, I just don't think people really notice him that well. I think he just goes unnoticed.
Yeah, I've got a good comment, Sam, that I've been holding on to for the last 5 minutes here, but I'll let you know what that is in a second. Stan, good evening. And if everyone's enjoying this podcast, share it on your social. Let some other Gooner fans know we're live right now, and we're having a great discussion about the Premier League and what's going to happen. Here's my comment. I'll go to Gary with it. El-Neni is, you're in a relationship and you have the one person in a relationship who's a nurturer. They want to do good things for everybody, right? They're a giver. I think Elneny is that in our team. He's all things to everyone, and he sort of tailors his game, sacrifices parts of his game to help the team, and every team needs a player like that.
Yeah, and the one thing that I like to say is that one is
Did my thing throw you off a little bit there, the nurturer?
Yeah, I was going one way, and I think I had to switch around a little bit. But the one thing I like to say is that Nelly is sorry.
We can call him that. That's good. We love to give players nicknames. Nelly.
I believe he is Arteta, the manager and the coach. And what I mean by that is, Arteta has shown that he knows his players well, and he's put them in positions to succeed, and we see that time and time again. And we're seeing it now with Elneny. Oh, I can't get the name out of my mouth right now.
Elneny. We're just going to keep going with that. Elneny.
I'm sorry about that.
Just call him Nelly.
We're seeing. Sorry about that.
It's all about having fun, Gary. Podcasts are all about having fun.
I heard that. I'm going to mess up some names. I messed today's. Just
go with Nelly.
But what I mean is, Arteta has put a lot of his players in positions to succeed, and we're seeing that time and time again. We're seeing that, we've seen that in the past season with the Mustafis and the Xhakas. After we thought he would never come back and play, he's come back and he's been solid. Same thing we're seeing today. Same thing we saw on Saturday. And I like that about the coaching. I wanted one of the things that we didn't know for like the last number of years is where was our manager and coach going? What was he doing? What was his plan? And I think we're seeing it now time and time again. Every time the team comes out, we get a little answer to what is Arsenal and what is Arsenal under Arteta, and you see it with the players, not the top players, but everybody, everybody, the best player at the top of the list and the ones that are supporting them, and we're seeing it every day. So I like that. And we're seeing it now and, continue to see that. I think anybody that he's put on the field, they have a plan and they're able to execute it. Whereas before, I feel like sometimes it may have been a little bit over their head and may have been asked to do too much. I feel like they're being asked to do things that they can't succeed in.
Like Emery was drawing things up on napkins, handed it to the players. 5 minutes. Here, put that in your sock as you go out on the field and take a look at it 5 minutes before kickoff. But great points. And Alonso, I'm going to go to you then about the evolution of the game here. And looking at Pep Guardiola, it took him with Manchester City seasons to seemingly get to the levels that we're attaining now in terms of playing out from the back. And Arteta has to be commended for doing that. We seem to, the players look pretty natural playing out from the back, and we know it hadn't been the case under Unai Emery.
Yeah, it's funny because whenever we had Unai Emery, it was like they were scared to pass from the back, and we saw that. I mean, we saw that with Guendouzi, we saw that with Socrates. It was a big, really scary moments in some games, and where they did do it properly, So it was like hold your breath kind of thing. And so with Arteta, it was like more calmer, more less ease, and more comfortable with the ball. And I think that we're having guys who experienced that with Emery. They kind of know and understand this is not our Emery's team. This is Arteta's team, and he wants it done right. He wants it perfectly done, and I think that it's been working out so far so good. We've had some mishaps, but it's totally into his way, which is really commendable on his part. And he trusts the team to do so too. He trusts the team to do so as well. So it's kind of exciting.
It's all about communication. It's all about drilling. It's all about getting out on the field, Sam. It's all about those things. And as I think we touched on, we're starting to see some things where patterns of play that ends up with Aubameyang on the left side. Now, my worry is when we meet the bigger teams, Jurgen Klopp, he's going to game plan against that. I'm hoping that Arteta is 2 steps ahead of Klopp. Imagining that we got Anfield and
yeah.
Klopp's expecting that switch from right to the left. It doesn't happen. We feed
Well,
the
this
ball
is
to Bellerin down the
yeah.
right, something like that.
I think that's something Klopp's got to be aware of and have some kind of plan to try and stop. At the same time, Klopp is also the type of manager, a bit like Wenger, where he wants Liverpool to play their game and impose their game on the opposition. He's not really that kind of manager who wants to tailor his tactics to what the opposition are doing. He's not that kind of reactionary manager. He's more of a proactive. He wants his team to impose their style and their high intensity play, high level play on the other team, and that's what's really working for them because they can basically just outplay the other team is what they've been doing so well. But we've shown, and Arteta's shown that he's managed to tactically make our team play around that and do well. And with Aubameyang, he's shown how it works, and it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see if Klopp is actually going to do something about that or try and do something about that, and if Arteta then has maybe counteracted that and maybe he's looking at doing something different. I think for us, because we're going to Anfield, I think it's going to be a matter of us. We're going to be counter-attacking. We're going to be lying a bit deep and counter-attacking, which we've done so well. I think it's going to be a lot of the same, really, because it's worked.
Yeah, John, and of course we won't have Nico Williams playing a right back. It'll be Trent Alexander-Arnold, which will be a different proposition for Aubameyang. But hopefully he can still kill him. You know what I mean? When that situation arises. But John, let's just talk about that. Hopefully Arteta is a couple of steps ahead of Klopp, and that we are starting to make teams game plan for us. Whereas we used to, under Wenger, we used to just go out and play our game. But now we're actually maybe scaring teams a little bit with what we're doing.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that we do need to be modest about our pretensions, and we can't really. And it's real fun right now to kind of imagine that we could beat anyone, which is true because that's the way the football is, and that's the way the Premier League is that any team can beat anyone on the day. The ball is round and all that fun stuff. But I think what's going to be really interesting to see is how Arteta deal, because we got a real kind of small sample size. First of all, I think that there's a lot of damage control going on the second half of the season, and then you have COVID and all that stuff. So it was like a very kind of like asterisk over a lot of what was going on, and I don't want to. I'm an optimist, but at the same time, I also look at it from a realistic perspective, where it's going to be very interesting to see how Arteta approaches it from game to game. So, what was his game plan versus Fulham, and how is he going to do? Is he going to change it against a team like Liverpool, which, for all intents and purposes, like there's a difference between playing Liverpool in the league and playing Liverpool, in the Champions League, playing Liverpool in the Community Shield, for example. So all of that is different. You have different players, younger players, and how he kind of fits the style that we play. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Wenger, because one of the big issues that he had was, like you said, he'll just go out and play his style. He won't kind of worry about who the opposition was. He'll make them kind of either conform to us, or if they don't, then we end up winning, or it's a wash up. And the reality and the effect of that, right. Go play. And, there was a lot of kind of jazz to it, right? It's kind of improvisation. And the reality of it was, because of the freedom the players had, and because the kind of mindset that he was able to get these players into, Wenger I'm talking about, you end up with more wins than losses or draws at the end of the day. You come out positive, just because a lot of the talent we had, you look at players like Sanchez and Ozil, who were able to carry the day. But I think that when you're looking at the Premier League from a modern perspective and what the game has become, I don't think that works as much anymore. You really need to be able to play to your opponent, and you can still do that freedom aspect of the game and have players express themselves, but you need to consider your opponent a lot more nowadays. And I think that Arteta is kind of a perfect bridge between that prior jazz way of thinking and the automatisms that we had players like Mertesacker talking about that were so prevalent in the Wenger days, as well as that kind of brutal tactician that like Pep was, and that man management that Pep was. It's kind of a fusion of the two, and hopefully that continues. That's what we saw at the end of last season. But like I said, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there, and it'll be interesting to see him over a span of an entire season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I do realize we are in a different race this season than Liverpool. They're eating at the top of the table. We are in that second tier, hoping to get into that second tier. But Sam, wanted to go to you with this question. Do you believe Arsenal need to strengthen any other positions apart from central midfield? And let's just say we're not going to have more cash than two midfielders, but let's just say you've got an extra 30 million lying around. What position would you like to fortify?
For me, it would probably be right back. A really real solid, good attacking right back who's also good defensively, like a Kimmich or someone like that. I think would be a great addition to our squad. It would be like the cherry on the cake if we already had Aouar and Partey. That'd be the only missing piece for me, I think.
Gary, where would you spend the extra money?
No, I definitely feel like depth is definitely key, as well as maybe that right back. But I feel, like I would like to strengthen our depth a little bit more just so that we have the additional players for anything that comes up and also for a lot of these earlier tournaments that we'll be playing in. So I think, our depth hasn't been where we would like it to be, and I'd like to see that improve as well.
I'm going to push you on a position.
Yeah. I believe in the middle. I believe we have some more depth there. I think
another midfielder.
That's what I think.
Midfielder. Okay.
Yeah.
Alonso, you've got 30 million extra at the end of the day. It's October 6th, and you got to go spend it. Where do you go?
I would put it left back.
Left back. Okay.
Because we might lose Kolasinac.
Even though we got Tierney and maybe Saka and Maitland-Niles.
Right, but on the right back we have Bellerin and we have Cedric Suarez. So maybe either fullback position, I guess. I
would go for a striker. I'd probably get Hudson Edward, as well. So John, the question is: we've got our two midfielders, Partey and Aouar, and Stan Kroenke gives us a gift of 30 million. Who do you go buy on with 12 hours to go?
I think you just named him. I get Edouard from Celtic.
Right. Okay. Very good. Listen, a couple other points that we're just going to briefly. I'll open up to all four of you. Notes that I have here. It was striking. Ainsley Maitland-Niles for me. His runs into the box. It helps create the first goal. He distracts the defense. So those runs from Ainsley Maitland-Niles are becoming a ploy that sort of confuses defenses. He sneaks into midfield. He sneaks forward. Any comments on that? Anyone?
Well, he's playing a hybrid position. That's the thing now. I think we're seeing something. James from Gunnerblog also writes for The Athletic. I don't know his surname, but he's James something. Anyway, a very interesting guy to listen to.
James McNichols.
Right. Yeah. Very, very interesting guy. And he made this point that he's been watching Maitland-Niles play, and he thinks we're seeing an evolution now in modern football. We're taking the next step where players now actually play several roles during a game. They're not just playing one role now. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what we're seeing with Maitland-Niles. And I think Maitland-Niles, with his versatility, right, he can play virtually anywhere across the middle. He can play virtually anywhere across the back. He can even probably play further forward on one of the wing positions as well if he needed to. With that kind of versatility and that ability to play defensively as well, you got a player who can virtually play anywhere. And I think Arteta is using that versatility actively in like a hybrid role where he's doing several things at once. He's in midfield attacking, he's in midfield working defensively, he's covering at left back, he's covering left wing back. He's playing several different roles at once, and it's amazing to watch because he has the ability, tactically and mentally to do it, and it's working really well. And he's actually turning into, I don't think many people are seeing this, but for me, he's turning into a key player for us because he can do this, and he's just a real unsung hero in our team at the moment because he's doing that for us and creating that. he's creating a lot of confusion tactically for our opposition.
Yeah, I'm going to come to you, John. I know you wanted to get in on that, but I'm going to get Norma's question in here. I think it's amazing. Football's amazing. Within the space of even a week since the Community Shield, we all probably would have took the bitter pill of selling Ainsley Maitland-Niles, but he stepped up in the Community Shield, and now Bellerin is a little bit more on the chopping block for a lot of fans. If you're going to be pushed between Bellerin and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I would sell Bellerin at this point. I know there's a lot of fans out there for Bellerin, but John, you wanted to add to that?
I wanted to add to this notion that players are becoming more of these hybrid, and I think that's spot on. And it's not limited to Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I think we're seeing that with Ceballos as well, especially after the break.
Yeah.
You look at where he played kind of for Betis and for Real Madrid, and it was more of this left-sided player. And I think that when Emery came in, he was also kind of on this left side of the midfield. People thought, where's he going to fit in? But the reality is that we put him in this kind of pivot with Xhaka on the right-hand side. You look at his heat maps after the end of the season. Even before the break, you saw he was all over the left-hand side, but then it's very, very concentrated in that area right next to Xhaka. That's where he received and got all of his passes from. And then when you look at what he was doing, we don't really have an out-and-out defensive midfielder. Xhaka is not a defensive midfielder. He's like a deep-lying playmaking kind of player. So, and he's not the most mobile of players, even though I think we can get into Xhaka and his role, but when you're looking at what Ceballos was doing, it wasn't really like a standard kind of number 8 role, even though that I feel like that's what you would consider him when you're looking at his heat map and his statistics. He's also taking the mantle of this defensive midfielder where he led the teams in blocks, he led the teams in interceptions, he led the teams in all of these things at the same time, keeping up these dribble stats and these possession ball carries. And that's not something new. If you look at him back in Real Betis, he was this defensive player as well, where he would get, I think, 10 on average. Once Victor came over and took over Real Betis, he had, I think, 10 on average ball recoveries per game. And the thing is that nobody was really utilizing him as that. They were trying to utilize him as this creative player. And here comes Arteta after this break and now turns him into this hybrid where he's not only playing this kind of really possession-based football game, but he shrinks the pitch for Ceballos. So now all of a sudden, now he's playing this defensive midfield role as well. And you're seeing immediately our shape gets better and immediately we become breakdown, and even when teams are pressing us, it's easier for us to bypass it and get them to our attacking dangerous players. So I think that was a point well taken, and then that's kind of the modern trend in football. It's that the role, the 8 or the 10 or whatever you want to call it, is becoming worse.
You're so right. You make such a good point with Ceballos, and I think when you saw him together with Maitland-Niles against Manchester City, what it did is it pushed Kevin De Bruyne out wide. Kevin De Bruyne couldn't play through the middle with Ceballos. He had to go out wide and he became a lot less effective. And I'll tell you what, it's working really well the way he's using Ceballos and Maitland-Niles. It's really interesting to see. And, football goes through these evolutions every now and again, tactics and the way football is played evolves, And I think we're seeing that now with Arteta. Arteta might be, I think Pep Guardiola has been the start of it. And I think Arteta might be taking what the blueprint is from Pep Guardiola and actually taking it forwards and utilizing it with players more than what Pep Guardiola was doing.
Yeah.
And we're seeing players now playing several different roles at the same time.
And that's why I'm allowing myself to get a little bit gassed. I'm going to keep the good times rolling because, believe it, people, Gooner fans out there, we have a revolutionary manager with us right now. I really believe that. I'll hold my hands up if it doesn't work, but I really believe that at this point in time. And, everything you said has been spot on about that. Let's touch on the landscape around us right now. And let's go to Liverpool first because, they are not our direct rivals right now. But, Gary, Thiago coming in, they've got to be gassed. And fair play to Liverpool. It's the worst kept secret in football. He was always going to go there. We probably tried. Arteta probably gave it his best shot. But realistically, I'm going to say if this was 12 months on in our project, we probably would have had a chance of getting a Thiago in our team. But he looked at our project and we're probably a year behind where he wants to be. And he's going to Liverpool to win things. And, he's probably going to win some a few more things with Liverpool. Thiago.
Yeah, definitely. And just one point before I get into Thiago is
Yep.
there is I believe it's a tweet out there that actually shows the formation that the Arsenal players are in and kind of their positioning on the field from, as they transition across the field. It's kind of a nice diagram showing you the movement of the team as the ball is going and where different players will move from back and forth, kind of like in a triangle. And it's kind of nice to see. And that's kind of when people say we start in that 3-4-3, but then we switch into a different formation. It kind of shows you that as well. So for anybody who's I can't remember who posted it, if it was who did it, but it's a really good diagram of what's going on.
If you could find that, send that to me. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I'll look for
because
it. But
the notion that Arteta is a guy who picks up the cones at the end of Pep's sessions, that's gone.
Nonsense. That's
Forget about that.
Yeah. In 6 months he's done all of this, so I think and I think it started from the back and he's moved it forward now into everybody now has their own role on the team. So I think he's done a good job, and we're happy to have him.
Let's go around. Quick word on Liverpool. If they don't win the league this year, it's on them. They have to get off to a good start. For me, they got out there in front, Alonso, last year, and they didn't have any pressure. I'm interested to see how they're going to react if they have a couple of teams on their coattails. Realistically, it's not going to be us, because if we get 16, 17 points across these 10 games, I'm going to be very, very happy. That's the kind of expectations dampening that John has talked about. I've talked about getting 16 or 17 points in these first 10 difficult games. The second half of our season, we can sail a little bit, but be aware, people. We'll probably get 16 or 17 points in the first 10 games. But Liverpool, Alonso, they should do quite well with Thiago. Probably taking a while for all of my.
And we'll see if and let's see if Talk can do the Liverpool pedigree and instill that into Thiago to see if he could get better with winning the trophy at Liverpool. I mean, they're a strong team, but they're also beatable. So I know it's different times, but we'll see what happens. And they're favorites with Man City, of course.
Yeah, we have yet to see what Man City are going to do. We're probably not going to talk about Man City because we have to get to our direct rivals, Sam. But a quick word on Liverpool, Sam. They're not infallible. If they get off to a bad start, we've seen that defense be shaky at the end of the season. Now, you could argue that they were almost there and they coasted home a little bit.
Listen, I don't think Liverpool are going to win the league this season. I don't think they're the same team this season. Virgil van Dijk is not as good as he was the last couple of seasons. I don't think they're clicking the same as they used to. Salah started off well now. He recently, his form until his last game, his form has been poor. Looks like he might have picked that up a bit now, but things haven't been clicking for them as it has been. And as it comes to Thiago, yes, he's a very good signing, a very solid player, but who are they going to sacrifice in that team? Because there's players there in the midfield that have been playing really, really well for them, been vital to how they're playing. You all of a sudden take one of them out and put Thiago in, and he has to adapt. That's going to affect the chemistry in their team as well. So we'll see how it goes. Personally, I don't think they're going to win the league this year.
You're going for City?
I think City want to prove something after last season, and I think if they keep going, I think they'll do it.
I've not been impressed with who they bought yet, and we don't want to make it about City. This is an Arsenal podcast. But Sam, what was I going to say? I think their midfield parts are quite interchangeable. We'll see what happens with Liverpool. But John, have your say
on Liverpool.
I'll go Liverpool.
So here's the thing, right? I think that in order to go back-to-back titles, the mentality of your squad, I mean, that's almost superhuman. All right. And I know teams have done it before, but so much is going against you, especially in this modern game with so much money flowing around and the talent that we have now. It could happen. And if any team could do it, I think Liverpool has the possibility of being able to pull that off. But I mean, when you're considering the kind of emotional toll that just winning the league, and then when you factor in like this whole like, you know, pandemic and stuff that happened, you know, they didn't even. I don't know. It just seems it. I can't even fathom the kind of stress and relief and emotional toil that has on you to finally get that off your chest, and then to put yourself right back in that mindset again and do it again. It's extremely difficult, and that can't be something that's overlooked either. Even though they are probably on paper one of the most talented teams in Europe in world football, really. So, yeah, go ahead.
It is so difficult, John, because let's remember Arsene Wenger and all the teams he generated 3 different great teams. They were never able to repeat.
Yeah, and you know, I think Man City did, but I feel like when you're
under Arsenal never did.
yeah, but I know we don't want to talk about City, but since we're talking about teams doing a repeat, I think when you look at the landscape of the teams and where they were in terms of the top 6 when City did that, it is a completely different ballgame than it is right now in the Premier League in terms of what the top 6 looks like and the talent levels and the money that are in the Premier League right now. So it's almost apples to oranges to compare what City was able to do back when they did it, and then versus us. Versus Liverpool, rather hopefully, you know, but Liverpool.
We're going to be there soon, John.
Yeah. So look, I'm right there. I agree. I don't think that they're. I think there's a lot more going against Liverpool than they realize. Even though, in my opinion, they just signed probably, not even probably. I think the best all-around midfielder in the world right now in Thiago.
Yeah. It's a little bit frightening, but we're not in the same cycle yet.
Correct.
Hopefully next year we can fight with those boys. You know what I mean?
Correct. And I think when you're looking at Arsenal, just to kind of add on to that, when you're looking at what the teams that we really need to be comparing ourselves to is more of the Chelseas and the Uniteds, I think, than and maybe even Leicester. I don't want to. I think that people feel like it's almost like an insult, but Leicester's not a bad side. You know, and I think that they'll do okay this season. I don't know if I don't want to compare us to Leicester. I'm not going to. I'll stick with Chelsea, and I'm going to stick with United.
The banner says you have to down there. The banner kind of says you have to compare us to Leicester a little bit at least.
Oh yeah, there it is, right, Brendan. Okay, yeah sure. I think we're in a better position than they are. You know who's a dark horse, and I don't think they're going to actually. I don't know. I'm really excited to see what they'll do. Just because I love the manager is Leeds. And I was saying that before the season started, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about? Like Leeds? That's not even gonna be top 10." And I'm like, "Is Bielsa this guy is like a freak genius? He's like a weirdo." But you know, for them, it should be interesting. And we're talking about a top 4 landscape. I don't think they're going to be in that bracket yet, but it's gonna be interesting to see what they do this season.
Yeah. So Sam, and for Arsenal fans, I did check the schedule because I'm curious to see how we're going to stack up against Leeds, and it's going to be mid-November. We're gonna face Leeds in November at Ellen Road, which for me, being a Gooner since like '86 or '87, I remember those tussles in the '90s. 5 FA Cup games, replays here and there, everywhere. But yeah, since John sort of went through the landscape, go through Leicester, Man United, and Chelsea, and we'll come back around again on Chelsea and United.
Yeah, I think Leicester they're going to be a top 8 team. Maybe top 6 at a push. I think maybe just more likely top 8. I don't think they're gonna push up from where they. Yeah, I mean, last season they dropped a lot, and I can't really see them improving a lot on what they were doing at the end of last season. Manchester United, for me, Van der Beek, not just a fan, just to appease the fans. Really, he's a good player, but he's not really what they need. They'll probably bring in another player that's good, though. Probably help them before the window closes. And with Solskjaer, the manager, there's a question mark there, isn't there? You know, how far can he take them? How good is he really? You know, there's a question mark with him. So I think United. I don't think United are going to be better than us this year if we live up to our potential, what we're hoping to do.
Yep.
And Chelsea, so far, you know, there's a few players there after gel. I was very, very disappointed with Havertz in that first game. I hardly saw him at all in that game. Werner was okay, but Havertz. I mean, of course, it's early days, but Havertz, huge player. He should do more than what he did in that game. But listen, it's a long way to go. I think Chelsea will be ahead of us. I don't think we'll be able to get ahead of Chelsea over 38 games because that squad they've got, especially in attack, is better than ours. But listen, I personally think with Arteta, and if we get a couple of players in now before the window closes, I think we're pushing for top 4. I really do.
I know, John. John, you look like you wanted to jump back in.
I was just going to say, I think there's some good points made there about Chelsea, and I think that there is a big question mark over Lampard, and I do not count Timo Werner out. I'm a big Germany fan, and the guy is a talented.
But there's an interesting point I want to bring up though, because this is something I brought up in other podcasts as well. How since Jurgen Klinsmann at Spurs in the mid-90s. Can you name another German forward that's come to the Premier League and done well?
Well, I think most of them have been swept up in Germany. That's the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't really had anyone, right? We haven't really had anyone.
Yeah, and you're looking at the profile of the Premier League now, and I think that what was happening was they were really trying to keep those German strikers in Germany to build up the Bundesliga in the same time. And it's true that you haven't really seen a lot of kind of German strikers, and there really haven't been a lot of prolific, German strikers. You look at the best team in Germany, and they have a Polish striker. So, I think that there's something to be said there. But independent of that, him as a top German, because it's an interesting point they bring up. But independent of that, I think when you're looking at him as a player, he's absolutely a class player, and he's going to cause a lot of people. If people are counting out Timo Werner in the Premier League, I think they're going to be sorely mistaken.
I'm not counting out Timo Werner. I'm not. I think he's going to score some goals in his first season. Top goal scorer, maybe that's a push, but but definitely he's going to be probably in the top 5. Definitely top 5, top 4 goal scorers. But what I'm a bit more worried about is Kai Havertz, because that first game he had, he looked very out of sorts. But listen, he's got to adapt. He's got to adapt.
I don't feel bad. You know what? I hope all the pressure that they gave us for Pepe and all of a sudden they start spitting out the exact same excuses. Oh, he's young. It's a new league. Oh, the system isn't set up properly. Maybe he's trying to figure out his best play. You know what? Forget it.
It's football tribalism at its best. You know what I mean? You're going to back your own players all the way to the hilt. But great chat, great discussion. If you're loving this, people, hit the likes.
If you
like it, hit the likes. Get them up there. Gary, have a look around the Premier League. Leicester City, Manchester United, Chelsea specifically, and to lead up to this, I'm going to have my say as well. We've seen with the season so close. We had a 4-week off season or whatever it was. There's not. You can see from last season who's surging and who's going to drop. Tottenham's going to drop. Maybe Wolves will drop. We talked about Leicester. They're sliding. You can see it visually in your head. Teams. I'm just biased. Arsenal are surging. You know what I mean? Gary, take it away.
I definitely feel out of those 3, Chelsea's the one that scares me because they have the individuals that can go out there and probably take over the game, especially from what I saw from Timo in the first game. If there were somebody beside him, behind him, making that pass, the game wouldn't have even been that close. He put himself in positions to put a shot on goal and whatnot. And a couple times the ball just never made it to him. And so that team with the talent that they have probably is going to be a hard one to catch. I mean, you can probably surprise them on a few occasions, but I don't think it's going to happen consistently with the amount of talent that they've been able to bring in. And Havertz, I think he just he probably maybe the jitters got to him because you look at the one pass and he just flied it all the way. It didn't roll out of bounds. It was clearly out. It was just too much energy I think in there. So, but I think when they calm down, they will they'll be fine. Hey, and I think
they look like a bunch of players who just met each other 5 days ago. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I think the continuity is going to be the team concept is going to be the one thing that if you catch them early, you might be able to get a win from them. But as they, if they get the coaching that they need, to make them better, they'll be scary. I think if they get the coaching,
if I'm stacking Arsenal up against Chelsea, I'm hoping that our cohesion, our team spirit, and the way we're starting to play will carry us through in the end. I'm one of those crazy gooners that think that we could finish higher than Chelsea. It's going to be a real point of contention. We can talk about this through the season. And John, you talked about Xhaka. You're going to have to come back on another podcast because that's a whole podcast.
I could talk about Xhaka all day. I was one of the ones saying, even when he wasn't doing well, saying, listen, he's not being utilized properly. He's not, and everyone was like, nope. And then it was like, all right, now everyone's getting on the Xhaka train. And I'm going, look, this is what I've been saying.
That's a whole podcast in itself, and we're at 1.5 hours. We'll go another 10 or 15 here, fellas. Thanks for everybody being here. The most important commodity to me that you can give me is your time, and I do appreciate that. Gary's jumped in, Alonso's jumped in, and Sam's jumped in. I want to thank you for being part of the channel as well, and John for joining us tonight. Great stuff. Really enjoyed the chat. We're going to keep it going for 10 minutes because I really, really do long intros. I do long outros here. I just can't say. I find it hard, John, to say goodbye to people here, the viewers. So if you're watching this on playback, you know exactly how long this podcast has gone on for. But I know you guys are being a little bit remittent in hitting the like button. So if you're watching this on playback, it's Friday, it's Saturday. Smash the like, hit the pause button, smash the like right now. Listen, I'm only asking because it helps the channel. It helps grow the community, and it helps bring other Gooners here to find us, and we're trying to build a community here.
I do have one thing. Tony did remind me, and it's a tradition. I think at least we started it now, and tonight's beer is brought to us by Magic Hack Number 9 from Vermont. So
nice one.
So I didn't forget. Yeah, so we didn't forget. It's one of my favorites. So
Gary, I love that you're like the host. Has a lot of stuff to do. So anyone who takes a section away from me is brilliant for me. I'm gonna encourage that every time, Gary. So keep bringing that segment. If I don't bring it, I want you to say, "Shut up, Ray. I'm gonna bring this segment right now."
I was. Tony wasn't around, so I was like, "Uh-oh, what do we do with this?" And then Tony did remind me. I guess I can do it, right? So I did.
Nice one.
I hope everyone's having a good time here. We're all about having a good time. It's all about Arsenal fans coming together, talking about it, and we're having a great discussion right now. Alonso, I'm going to hit you up with this question from the assembled. I'm going to do like Arsenal Vision did a podcast recently, over under. Will Tottenham, that team that shall not be named, will they finish above 10th place or below 10th place?
I would say 11th place.
11?
Below.
Below. John, above or below?
Yeah.
I think
it's real borderline, right?
I think they're going to finish above, especially they signing two players
above 10, not above us, above 10.
No, we're going to finish above them. But as much as I hate them, Jose Mourinho, he's a good manager, unfortunately. Enough that he can get in. He's at least a top 10 manager. Let me put it that way.
You really think he's a good manager? He still got it.
I don't think he's got it as much as he did. I think the game has kind of passed him by the same way it might have passed Wenger a little bit. But but I think he's still it still carries that name in the same way that Wenger was able to drag us even when we weren't doing well, kicking and screaming in FA Cups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that Jose is going to do the same. I wish it wasn't the case, and I wish I didn't feel that way. But my reason, is just telling me that they're going to finish higher than 10th at least.
Yeah, I think they're going to be bad, but they're not going to be 11th or below. I think
I would love to be hilariously, miserably, and embarrassingly wrong about that. I would love to be wrong.
Well, we did a mock Premier League finishing, and somebody put him 20th, relegated. Fine by me, right?
I'll take that every day.
Sam, above 10th or below 10th?
Above. I don't think much above. I'm thinking like maybe a 9th, 8th at a stretch, maybe about that, I think. But about that level. And with Mourinho, there's a lot of talk of him maybe not lasting very long if they keep going the same way. I think personally, I think Levy's got a lot invested in him. I think Daniel Levy's got a lot invested in him.
Yeah.
He knows he's got egg. He knows he's got egg on his face if he sacks him so quickly. So I think Mourinho is going to be staying longer. I think Mourinho is going to be staying longer than what people think.
Yeah, it's not even been one season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lumberg camp. Okay, Gary. Final word on Tottenham season. You have it all in your hands, Gary. Where did they finish?
They will finish below us, but definitely above. I think above 10.
Above 10.
I think I think their front line will give them enough points. I think. Yes.
Sorry to cut you off. I do that a lot. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get better at that. But I have these one-liners I got to get out. Will it be all or nothing for Tottenham?
I hope nothing. So I hope they get nothing.
We know the answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, quick word. We talked about Ole, and I personally don't rate Ole too much, and Sam I think said they might have a tricky season. They've got firepower up there, but they're always going to leak a goal. Let's talk about Chelsea and Frank Lampard. Let's tear that empire down. Like I said, John, I'll go to you first. So I'm extolling the virtues of Arsenal, young players, Aubameyang. Everybody's happy. We're going to get off to a high octane start.
Yes.
Maybe not be Liverpool, but high octane for me is 16 points out of 30 to start with. But what do you see happening with Chelsea?
Well, I mean, we beat Liverpool twice already, so in the last month, so it's not impossible. We can do it.
Right?
Yeah. But in terms of Chelsea, so here's the issue with Chelsea, in my opinion, and it's an issue of identity right now, and the kind of problem that it doesn't matter how much money you spend and throw into the transfer market, you're not going to fix it with money. It needs to come from the coaches. It needs to come from the players to develop a certain play style and identity, and that's solely on Lampard. Now, Lampard's never faced something like that. The checkbooks have been open. Abramovich said, all right, well, let's do it. But now it's a question of, can he get the best out of these players, and can he make it work in a cohesive unit to the point where the benefits of the team and its strengths outweigh its deficiencies and its weaknesses. So that's the key right now, and that's one of the hardest things that a manager can do. And what's been so fascinating about what Arteta has done with the same group of players that we've seen come through here. So it's more than just getting the best out of these players. There needs to be a plan, and they need to effectuate it properly. And that's solely on Lampard. If he can do that, the players, I mean, they got some extremely talented players, and they did some good business as well, and they covered areas that I think that they needed to cover. Not 100%, but definitely better than where they were, considering they couldn't make any transfers because of the ban. But regardless of that, it comes down to, like I said, if Lampard can get the pieces working, because he has them, he just needs to make it work. Yeah,
they're all there, but like I said, I think players kind of figure out the coach pretty quickly, and if he's all that. Shout out to Tony. He's nursing his foot, taking antibiotics, so no beer for him. Saturday, if we get a win, we're going to do a podcast. I will bring my beer to this segment that Gary has fostered for us. Okay, Sam, the evil empire that is Chelsea.
First of all, they still have problems in defence. Chilwell is not the great signing they think he is. Even Leicester, even Leicester fans have said as much. He's not that great. Quite overrated. Central defence is still a problem for them. You've still got a question mark with Kepa, who on his day could be very good, and then on another day he can be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
So they've still got a question mark with the goalkeeper as well. So defensively, not great. But midfield and onwards up to the forward line, they're very, very strong now. They've made a lot of great additions. And we have to see now if Lampard can harness that and make something out of it, right? Because at the end of the day, you do have to put these pieces together, and the pieces have to work together. And, there's a lot of big pieces there. Can you make them work together? That's the thing with Lampard. And also, when you've got stars like this, you've got a lot of star power as well. Are there going to be issues with ego? Some players might not get the minutes they want. Is there going to be an ego issue there as well? Can you control the ego, the star power? Lampard has shown he has some talent as a manager. Of course, that's why he's in the position. But going from where he was at Derby to this, it's a big step up. It's a really big step up.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I think maybe if I'm going to make a prediction, I think this is going to be too much for him. I think he's going to find it's going to be too tough to make everything work.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, great chat going on between Rule and John there, and exactly, I agree with what both of you are saying there. Gary, you want to talk about a little bit further about Lampard and what Sam has just talked about?
Yeah,
Lampard's mentality.
Yeah, Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I think
along
those lines, I think the one thing that we saw from Arteta is that, I was kind of a little surprised when Pepe didn't play as much as he did, and one of the things I think that he was doing is getting him, his mentality and, what he, showed to the team is that, you got to be able to do the things that I need you to do for us to be successful. And I think he was able, and I think that might be Lampard's downfall, is that he may have too many players that won't follow the plan that he sets forth, even if it doesn't seem right at first, and it may not ever actually be right. But I think, Arteta has shown that if you have a plan and you stick by it, it will work. And he's shown it has worked. And we've seen Pepe grow into his role, and his talents have been shown in the last couple of games that he's played. And I think that's from Arteta pretty much maybe pulling him back. And that's, here's a team concept that I have in mind as a coach. If you follow that, you'll be fine. And that's what we're seeing. Will Lampard be able to do that? I'm not sure. Not with all those players that they're bringing in. It's kind of hard to do that because he's going to be playing a lot of players that hadn't been in his system for a while. So it's going to be new to them. It's new to him. And he's going to be still trying to figure out what he's got.
For me, when they played Liverpool at the back end of the season, I saw a little bit of his temperament. I don't think he has the mentality to kick it with the big boys, Guardiola and Klopp. I think the temperament is a real big thing. We've seen it down through the years with Arsene Wenger and Alex Ferguson. The mind games have not really been a thing in recent years, but that's an edge that can happen in the big game as well. In the big, I think Arteta's got it there as well. Again, I'm optimistic, so take what you will from what I'm saying, but I think we're going to be good. Alonso, Chelsea, and then we're going to close things out. I'm going to do a short outro.
Yeah, so I think that the problem with Lampard is that what Gary was saying, and I think Sam and John also said that, artists and players had their own different ways they have their own strengths and weaknesses, where Arteta knows Arsenal players, whether it be his team or his ex-teammates. People forget that, him and his teammates are many, so he sees what they do in practice and what he's capable of. So I think with Arteta, he trusts his players, and he trusts his players to be an assistant network for them as well. So I think that with Chelsea, he's gonna have problems. That part, he's gonna have problems with the teams, with the guys, with the players he has on his team now. Where Arteta knows his team, he knows the systems that he can implement with players he has, and work for their strengths. Where that part's still figuring it out. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm positive that Arteta is going to be.
Lampard is still trying to figure out what happened in the FA Cup final. Let's go around the table. A quick word on the on those three teams, and I'll start. I think Chelsea. Just to summarize, I think Lampard's not really up to it. We've talked about how he's going to have difficulty trying to gel those players. I think Sam talked about it. That's going to be a difficulty in itself. I don't think he's really solved the defense yet. That's going to be a problem for Chelsea. I just don't think Ole's up to it. I actually think one of those two will get fired this season. Ole or Frank will get fired. Brendan Rodgers, they're sliding. Well, that'd be too much to ask for, right, John? Let's just ask for Arsenal getting better, and I obviously see that happening. But John, you quickly surveyed the three teams as well.
Yeah, look, I think if Ole is at the wheel, as they say, I think that I've never really been impressed with him as a manager. I think that when you're looking at what they're doing in this transfer market, you get everyone's like, oh, the Glazers are terrible. They don't care about the club. And then it's like, well, maybe they just don't trust this guy with all the, to make you know what I'm saying? There might be an aspect of that going on. I'm speculating, and it's more of I'm being hopeful and optimistic that
Sure.
that there's infighting between the ownership and Ole as a manager. So,
And
yeah.
if you're an Arsenal fan, optimism and speculation are your watchwords. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you gotta be very careful. But there's sometimes where optimism can be good in a negative aspect, especially when it's concerned with a rival.
And as we said earlier, it's time to like puff our chest out a little bit more, put our chin a little bit higher, because Arsenal are doing quite well right now. And we're riding that wave.
Exactly. And there was that kind of like tongue in cheek, we got our Arsenal back when Emery was, tying games every week, and it was fun and it was exciting. We were just kind of desperate, right? So there's a qualitative and a quantitative, when you're looking at the statistics, difference between what we're doing now and then what we were doing under Emery in the same period of time. Yeah. So they're when you say no one's saying we got our Arsenal back yet, or well, if they are, I think it's still tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
but I think there's more of an objective basis to kind of say that now than there was, and it's almost disingenuous because we don't really have our Arsenal back. We're seeing the evolution of Arsenal into a modern style of play and a modern football club, which is even better in my opinion.
It's exciting because you're seeing players that you had given up on in recent years, and they've been transformed in a lot of ways. Hopefully it continues. Sam, your look quickly over the three teams and ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's just a continuation of what I was saying, really. I think out of the three now, I think we're in the best place when it comes to squad harmony, how we can play together, getting the best out of the squad, out of the team. I think we're in the best position out of the three.
Who's under the most pressure as well?
Well, it's out of the most pressure. It's got to be Lampard for me. He's got to be, because he's got all that money invested now, and so they're going to expect results. You put that amount of money into and those players into a team, you're going to expect results. For me, he's under more pressure than Solskjaer at United. I think he's under slightly less pressure, but he's under pressure too because they expect results too at United. And with United, I think you see them losing out on all these players now. I think that's partly down to Solskjaer as well. I don't think these players want to go and play for him. I don't think I don't think he has the pulling power. Like other managers do.
Yeah. And just a quick word on pulling power. Liverpool fans are talking about the pulling power of Klopp. I think it's the team that are in the right place. I don't think it's necessarily Klopp. If, like I said, if we're a year on and we're getting top four, Thiago could look at us if we're a year further in our evolution, Gary?
Yeah, it's just I guess one thing just to follow on when John was talking about during that run that we had with Emery. One of the things that I was looking at, I was like, how do we keep winning this? Because I kept seeing teams have shot upon shot on us, where it's like, okay, if any of those go in, this game's we're in trouble here. And time again, they missed those chances, and we were able to continue that run. And so I was like,
for sure,
the consistency that we needed wasn't there, and we just were being lucky during that run, and then it came to fruition towards the end of the year when we just teams decided, you know what, we're not going to give you those opportunities anymore, and they settled down and waited for us to kind of collapse, it seemed. So that's kind of how I felt on that. I do, I think our improvements against those three teams will be a lot more than what if they're making any kind of improvement will be. So I feel we'll be able to catch them, and some of them will be able to pass, and some of them we won't, just because of the talent that they have. But I feel like we'll be able to close the gap. It won't be as big as it was before. If not, we'll be ahead of them. So for some of them,
that's what it's all about, closing the gap. I want to give a big shout out to Sam. He's from Norway. He's there in Norway. It's middle of the night there, so
Yeah, this is not daylight, by the way. This is just the kitchen light, just so you know. It's
dedicated gooner. Alonso, final say. I think you get the final word, Alonso.
So what John and Gary talked about was our unbeaten run, and it kind of caught up to us at the area end of the season where we couldn't beat Wolves. We couldn't beat the smaller teams and losing Baku. But I think with Arteta, he's more. He wants his ways and wants it perfect, and he doesn't want our team to give up. I mean, he wants us to finish above that. He wants us to be in terms of football pretty soon. And so I think his expectations are kind of high, where our mistakes are kind of he wants to win every game if possible, and if he do, he'll make adjustments for the next game and change formations.
Yeah. Ray Anderson said Arteta is under much more pressure as Lampard or Ole, and I think Isambo said, we're under less pressure because we invest less. But I think the pressure is coming from Arteta. He really, really wants to push this club forward. We're at a crossroads right now. We're here where we were in 2017, but we won an FA Cup. But we want to kick on now, and I think Arteta's got that drive and ambition. Anyone want to jump in for final words? Because I just do these outros too long, and I'm going to make it shorter. John, thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. The chat was great. The conversation was great, and I love talking about Arsenal. So it's a great time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was brilliant chat to talk about. What else can we say about Aubameyang? We're just repeating what everyone else says, just packaging it in a different way.
Yeah, but it's a player that deserves all the praise because he really elated us by re-signing, and it's exactly what we need right now. If he had gone, we would have a totally different vibe at this club. So it deserved all of the conversation that we had.
Yeah, and this is my one cautioning word. I hate to say this because we have the good time feeling right now, and but generally when players get their contracts, there's a little bit of a dip. I hope that is not the case. I hope I haven't hexed him. I hope he keeps being happy and scoring goals. I actually believe that will happen. He will continue, starting against poor old West Ham on Saturday. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to jump in there, but it's actually an interesting point, and not to belabor the Aubameyang thing, but one thing that is true about that is I feel like once they get the contract, that's their goal, right? They got the contract, and now it's not really, they play really well up into the contract, and that's it. But I think there's this other goal that Aubameyang has, this legendary status, right? Yeah, that I think that goes past just the contract. So I don't think we're going to see that from him. And once again, touch wood, because I also don't want to jinx him, but I don't believe in any of that anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Let's knock on some wood there. Another thing with the legendary status, to be a legend at one club is a great thing. To be able to be that player when you retire, you come back to Arsenal and you're a legend. It's great stuff. Well, listen, my outros are usually too long. We're going to close it up right now. Thanks to everyone for watching. Smash the like button. I thought tonight was a great podcast. And
thank you.
I want to thank Sam, Gary, and Alonso coming, and John. The first time, I hope we can have you back at some point as well in the near future. People, go check out John on his podcast as well, and find him on Twitter at 305cast. Right?
Yes, that's right. Correct.
Okay, cool. I'll put your stuff in there in the descriptions as well. So, hey, we move on. 3 points. We're 4 point. I like to say we're 4.5% there to 66 points. Do the math later, John. We get another one. We're 9% there. We get another win on Saturday. We're 9% there. This has been Arsenal Fan Circle, and thank you for watching, everyone. Really, really enjoyed this one. Come on, you Gooners. Let's get 3 points. We'll be back Saturday morning. Take care, everyone.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
Yeah.